Well, Quantum is a piece that came out after I did the residency in CERN, which is the particle physics laboratory in Geneva. It's a huge campus and a huge experiment. It's one of the biggest experiments in the world. It's the most complex machine ever built by man. And they're really looking for the smallest of the smallest. They try to know what matter is made of. It was a great opportunity for me to be part of this program. It was a 3-month residency called Collide at CERN, and I was embedded in CERN. I had a little office, and I met some physicists, some scientists. I had the opportunity to visit some experiments and think for myself. So for me it was really special because it was the first time in my career that I had really dedicated time to research. Because normally for us research is part of the process, the creative process is part of the production. And in this case it was really only research, like fundamental research. And I was in the center of fundamental research. That was really interesting also to see how they work and how they relate to each other, how they organize, how they take decisions. It's not a pyramidal way to organize. It's a flat way to organize, so everybody has to agree on everything. So on many aspects it was a very interesting experience. And then after this residency, during the residency we did a few performances and interventions inside in the CERN campus, one in the library, for instance, also an antimatter hall, the calcul center. We have like a lot of computers, and the idea was to really get inside, to also be active inside the experiment and also experiment as they do. I really was interested in this notion of researcher on one side, like you make the theory, and then you have the experimentalist that try to prove this theory. And after this residency, I decided I really wanted to make a piece because I've been searching. The theme of my residency, of my search was I was looking for movement generators. And what I mean by movement generators is a system that create movement that can teach to the dancers, and they start to create a movement by themselves. It's like an algorithm. You give a certain number of conditions, yes, no, and in between this and in between that, and then the dancer, they have all this information, and then they can start to produce movement with this information. But I wanted those movement generators to come out of physics, of particle physics principles, and I wanted them to be as coherent as possible in our scale, because of course we are talking at human scale, and we're looking at events that happen at a subatomic scale. I quite struggled actually, because it was not so easy as I thought first. But then I managed to find some principle that I could apply using the idea of forces, the fundamental forces, because the four fundamental forces are forces that are not contact forces. They're all is like gravity is not contact. Electromagnetism, which is the force that keeps us together, is non-contact. The strong force, the weak force, all the four fundamental forces are of non-contact. So I thought that's quite interesting in terms of dance, because we of course work a lot with contact, and the contact with the other's body that's how we connect to someone. And then I thought, but how can we connect bodies without touching each other. So we started to work on the idea of bodies that could positive, negative, things that cannot never get together, that positive that go against. Also the ideas of magnetism that all the atoms would go in one direction. So you can quantum physics, there's a lot of symmetries. They say that if you know symmetries, you know quantum physics. So it's really about symmetries. And there's many different symmetries. I had two physicists that came into my studio, then into my laboratory, and they helped us to look at our material, and I was asking them if they think it was coherent, if that was an okay way to describe this. And they would also give us sometimes some idea on some principles, say, like for instance the symmetry, to say, but there's this type of symmetry and there's this other type of symmetry, and that's what we that's how the piece started to be built really. So for me, what was really interesting is that I didn't have a theme, I didn't have to, of course, a narration. It's not that I do narrative pieces in general, but there's an idea behind, or some kind of sub-message that is there, some ideas that pop out. And in this time, there was really nothing else than the relation to quantum physics. I had the chance to really work on full abstraction without having to think more than about abstraction. Because my idea also was that I knew that I was working to abstraction, but I'm working with human bodies, and bodies that are women and men and women, and so they're really concrete. So you really can relate to them because they are human. So if a man and a woman are together, then that creates some sort of emotion to the proximity of the contact, of the relation that's there. So there's these two levels of how you can look at the piece. You can look at what are the interaction between the people, and also what could be interaction between the laws that, the laws for matter, or the way particle behaves. So that was the main idea behind this. Well, actually, the installation it's a piece by a visual artist. His name is Gilles. He's a young German artist living in Berlin, and he was resident at CERN just before me. So he was the first resident artist in this new program called at CERN, and I was the second. So I met him, and also I got to follow a bit his work, and then I went to see his last conference that he did. We had to do a conference, a public conference, and he presented this piece that he did. And I thought, that's a great, that's perfect piece for dance piece. And I went to say, this is really, I like it, really nice, and it would be really great for dance piece. And he said, There's also the music that also has a very special function in the piece, because the music has been created using some of the data from the LHC, because you probably know the LHC, what they do, they make collision, no? So they accelerate protons in one way and protons on the other way, and they make them crash together. It's about 600 million collisions per second, so it's just like massive amount of collisions and massive amount of data. So all those detectors, they just take information, and they have to deal with this information, take what's interesting, what is not, and then do something with it. So there's all this data that is there, and she got access to the data, and she started to make sonification with the data. So she uses the data as a trigger for sound. And it creates a music that is also very special, because it has something very organic, but also it's very synthetic. The music is like a kind of a space that is taking everything together. The sound is very surround, so you really feel like totally embedded in the whole piece, and with the movement of the light, this kind of hypnotical effect also. me, what I think is the most interesting in dance is the power of suggestion that we have in dance. And now I'm really interested into some new actions that you see. There's some new dance. As you probably know, for the last 10 or 15 years, there was some questioning of movement, like non-movement has become movement and non-action is movement. And so all this is has really opened the fields of how you can dance without moving or just think and dance about thinking. So all this now is really open, but I have the feeling that I need to move and to continue to explore movement and how to generate movement through dance, and not only through ideas or narratives or conceptual processes. So I'm not that conceptual. For me, the concept is inside the process, maybe not so much inside the piece.